Coming up on episode 363 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Hyundai Kona EV, the Toyota Prius Prime, the Subaru Impreza RS, Mazda CX90. Polestar finally starts U.S. production of the Polestar 3 and is looking to expand its retail network. Consumers are getting a little more satisfied with their DC charging experience. Cadillac and Acura launched new EV concepts at the Monterey Car Week, and Lincoln has a heavily updated Navigator. All that and more coming up next. All right. This is episode 363 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam Salmon from Guidehouse Insights.
And I am Nicole Wakeland from Car Buzz.
And Robbie has some family stuff going on, and he will hopefully join us in progress.
So in the meantime, it's the Nicole and Sam show. Woohoo!
Yeah. We haven't done this in a while.
We haven't.
All right. So, what have you been driving?
I had a couple different cars, because I missed a week. So I had the Mazda CX90 last week before. I've lost track of time. So I like the CX90. I think it's a good car. And the thing is, I'd had the CX70. I'm getting my numbers straight just before that, which is essentially the same thing, but with 2 rows instead of 3. So. Yeah. Which is
They just left out a few parts.
So it's so very much the same thing that it's almost like weird. You're like writing about it. And then, so I have the CX70, I got the CX90. I'm like, well, the same. CX70, the same. Oh, wait, heating, that's different. Let me write something there. So, Mazda continues to do what Mazda always does really well, which is create these beautiful interiors that punch above their weight class. They always look like things are a little bit more expensive than they actually are. And the CX90 does that. It's available with a gas or a plug-in hybrid. Excuse me. So you have your pick. I think that, I feel like they're the driving between the two, because I drove both of them on the launch program back whenever. In fact, there was flooding and it was crazy when they launched it, and it was kind of insane. But, they're both going to drive. They drive very similarly. I didn't notice this gigantic difference between the driving. It's like, it comes down to that handling. It handles like a Mazda, which means that these are larger SUVs, but they still, if you take them on a twisty turny road, they're not going to make you and all your passengers queasy, which is something that happens in big SUVs that don't have the sort of robust suspension systems that take care of the sort of body sway that you get in the corners. The thing that I continue to love about these is just how good they look. They really look good. They're really comfortable. The interior trims are incredible. And the only thing that I continue to hate, what is it, Sam? What do I continue to hate?
Let's see. Would it be the mirror adjustments?
No, that's not it.
The seat adjustments?
No, that's actually pretty cool too.
I don't know. I can't imagine what you would dislike about a Mazda.
I know. It's hard to think about what I might like, might not like. It might be the stinking infotainment system. I still can't get by it. And now they've changed it. And honestly, from model to model at this point, and even it changes a little bit. So originally, no touchscreen in any Mazdas. They weren't touchscreens. Now they've added touchscreens that are touchscreens only when you're using Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And I've seen different things on different vehicles, so I don't know where the dividing line is. Some people have said that you can use it when it's in motion. Some people have said you can only use it as a touchscreen when it's not in motion. What I found in this, I could use it as a touchscreen anytime I had Apple CarPlay and Android Auto engaged. It was fine. Could touch the screen. It worked. But it's just so stinking confusing, because if you have those on, you're fine, but then you forget that you're no longer in that mode and you go to touch the screen, which at one point was a bit farther back in some models. Now it's at the right spot to be a touch screen. It's easy to reach out and touch it. So your impulse is to do that. And when you do that, you can't actually get anything to work. So it's a little bit frustrating. I'm not a big fan of the rotary dial controller. I keep trying to get used to it. I keep trying to tell myself it's going to get easier. Mazda fans tell me it gets easier. I think they're all liars. I don't really think it does get easier. I think it's just weird and wonky. And it is the one thing that could potentially have me say, don't get a Mazda. Like anybody who's looking at one, I always say to them, just play with the infotainment. It's either you're not going to care at all, it's not going to drive you nuts like it drives me nuts, or it's going to make you stabby. It makes me stabby. I know it doesn't bother you. It's fabulous.
if you're using projection, using your phone, then it's just a normal touchscreen and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It works fine.
Yes.
It's only an issue if you're using the native infotainment system.
Correct.
And the native infotainment system, the way the menus and everything are set up, it's designed with the rotary controller in mind. So it does work better. You can use the rotary controller with CarPlay or Android Auto.
Yeah, but it's not.
It works, but it is more awkward.
That's awkward, and they say that's the reason that they made the interface for the smartphones actually touchscreen, because they were designed to work on a touchscreen that is your phone. So trying to make them work with something that's not a touchscreen is just a little cumbersome. So making that a touchscreen made a lot of sense. I wish they just made it a touchscreen for everything, just for everything. Let me use the touchscreen. That was my beef. That was my complaint. But I do like driving it. You've got enough, I think there's two engines. The base engine is 280 horsepower. The more robust 3.3 liter is 6-cylinder is 340. So there's a pretty significant power difference. So, depending on your need for performance.
Well, the 280 is the hybrid, right? The plug-in hybrid.
Yes, I believe the 280 is the hybrid.
But the plug-in hybrid has less power, but it has more torque than the 6-cylinder.
So you have a little bit of a trade-off. So you kind of have to, it's definitely one of those things you should give it a drive and see how you feel about it, because it's not, I just think you got to give it a drive. Either way, though, I think the handling is so good that it really makes up for, that's what the priority is for me in this car. Like, I feel like you're not buying this because you want something that's a race car. You're buying this because you want something that's attractive, that handles well, that's comfortable, and that is nice for your family to sit in. And I think this does that really well. It's a very nice vehicle for your family. You can all get comfortable. There's plenty of room. The seats are supportive without being like stiff. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I look for in an SUV. I don't look for something I'm not looking for a performance car.
Which powertrain did you have? The 6-cylinder turbo or the plug-in hybrid?
I had the 6-cylinder turbo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a nice combination. The plug-in hybrid, I think, works really well as well. It gets you about 25, 26 miles of electric range. Mm-hmm. And when you're in EV mode, it's obviously not quite as quick, but it's quick enough, certainly for around town driving.
Exactly.
So you can do a lot of your daily driving on electricity alone, and then the hybrid kicks in and you're on your way, and it works really well. Yep. So what color?
Mine was white, so it was the wrong color. I know, it's the wrong color.
Why does Mazda put the boring colors in the press fleet?
The CX-70 and the CX-90, both of them that I had, both of them white. I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know why they're doing this. This is ridiculous. They should both be red. The fact that they're giving us colors other than red, I'm like, what is wrong with you people? It should not be a color other than red. Why are they just mad at me because I don't like the infotainment, and they just keep giving me, like, give Nicole the white one just to make her even more frustrated? I don't know, but I'm like, come on, give me the red one. That's so much better.
So you can get the CX90 in Soul Crystal red, and they also have another color, another shade of red, which is a darker, more like a burgundy.
It's kind of like a burgundy. It's very pretty. It's a very pretty burgundy, but I'd still go for that. If I'm buying a Mazda, Soul Crystal red, that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be any other color, because all the other colors are wrong.
Yep. All right. And what else did you drive?
I also drove the 2024 Subaru Impreza in the RS trim, which is new this year. They brought the RS back, or I guess introduced the RS. I get a little, but it's new this year. I
think they've had it in the past. So.
They've had it in the past. So it's like, it's not new for the first time. It's new this year. Like, there was a gap where we didn't have the RS. So the RS is the top trim of the line. That there's only 3 trims. So it's a very normal trim range. They did a couple things with the Impreza that might make people sad. One of them, they got rid of the sedan. It's just available as a hatchback now. Okay, that may or may not upset you. They also got rid of the manual transmission. So
that should upset people.
That should upset people a little bit more. I can hear the little, I mean, you can still get the WRX, I think, with a manual transmission. You just can't get the Impreza. So that's the drawback. So the RS, despite being the sporty trim, you're still not getting anything other than, I think now I've just drawn a blank. It's a CVT, I believe, that is in this one.
Yeah.
So, so you can't, but it has paddle shifters halfway, kind of, sort of.
You can pretend it has a real transmission.
Yeah, compromise. You can pretend it has a real transmission, but it does not, which is disappointing because part of the fun of a hot hatch is driving it like a hot hatch, having the pedals, having that sort of visceral experience. And as much as I like driving this, and especially in the little sporty little RS trim, it loses that because you don't have that. There's something to be said for truly, honest to God, moving the shift back and forth, moving your feet back and forth on the pedals. It is not the same experience as just flicking paddle shifters. And I miss that, especially in something like this. This isn't some really high-end fancy car that's giving you paddle shifters so you can sort of experience what it's like to shift that way. And this is a fun little hatchback, and it's less fun without the manual.
So it's more like a lukewarm hatch.
It's a lukewarm hatch. Like, I don't want to call it a hot hatch. I want to say it's like a lukewarm hatch. It's not tepid. It's like lukewarm. Yeah, it could be a little hotter than it is. And I do like what they did with the inside.
Put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes.
Just like 10 minutes more and it'd be perfect. So they did some upgrades on it. They've improved the trims and stuff. The RS actually has these really nice like black and gray seats, and it has red trim along the bolsters, which just kind of, again, looks sporty. And it has like aluminum pedals. So it, again, looks sporty. And there's a fancy RS badge on the outside. So it gets some things that make it look a little bit more sporty than the others. And it does have a more powerful engine. It gets a little bit more oomph than the rest of the trim, which is the lineup, which is great. Like, I appreciate that, but I want the extra oomph and I want the manual transmission. The base and sport trims get a 2-liter 4-cylinder with 152 horsepower, 145 pound-feet of torque. The RS is a 2.5 liter, 182 horsepower, and 178 pound-feet of torque. So it's a nice little jump, both in horsepower and in torque. I haven't driven the base trim, so I don't know how much of a difference between them you will feel. My instinct is you're going to feel a pretty big difference because those are decent numbers, Sam.
Yeah.
So
I haven't driven the base one either. I've had the. I think I also had the RS when I had the Impreza a couple months ago, and it's got sufficient power. It's adequate.
Like, it's somehow disappointing, and the styling on it. Don't you want this to drive more than it drives? I looked at it, I saw, and especially it has that very hot hatch look to it. Like, the styling on this is fabulous, and they've redone the grille on the front, so it's used to be a little bit thinner, I think, and now it's a little bit fatter, and it looks more like a hot hatch. It just doesn't drive more like one. I don't dislike it. And maybe, the flip side of this is some of the stuff they've done. There's I believe a 10% stiffer chassis than there was before. They've torsional rigidity, 10% increased improved torsional rigidity or something. So what that means is that what you're going to see is you don't know what that does. What it actually does is make the suspension react better. So it handles a little better. It also means it absorbs the bumps a little better. So if you're on really rough pavement, and I drove this into Boston again this week, terrible pavement, and that entire city is just a giant series of potholes. And I expected from past experience that this was going to be a really uncomfortable ride. It wasn't. It actually handled things really well. I mean, you could still feel the bumps. It's not as smooth as, say, a nice little sedan or something, but it was surprisingly well-mannered. It really handled well on rough pavement. And we had some broken pavement because they were doing a paving project and that horrible graded stuff they do before old pavement's gone and new pavement's there and makes noise and sounds just awful. It even handled well on that. Overall, I think they've improved the ride. So between that and also just the cabin was a little quieter. I remember thinking it was a little bit noisier, a little bit more road noise, little bit more wind noise, a little bit more noise. I felt like the noise was reduced because we had some people sitting in the back seat, and we didn't need to raise our voice specifically to hear them. It's the kind of hot hatches have a habit of, once you get going, you're going to be raising your voice noticeably to have a conversation with who's behind you, or they could be talking to each other and you hear it, but you don't understand it. Like you hear their conversation.
You get that rumbling overlaid on top of it.
So unless you're like, they're speaking up or they're making an effort to talk to you, you can't really hear them. This was lovely. So I think that, I don't know, maybe it works with the lukewarm thing. The drive itself isn't that hot hatch you want, but in other ways, it's better than a hot hatch because it's quieter, it's smoother, and it's a nicer driving experience. So overall, I liked it. And I still think, it's got standard all-wheel drive. The base trim is just about 23. The Sport in the middle is about 25, and the RS is just under 28. So you're still a chunk under $30,000 for pricing on this, which is really not bad. And I know no one's going to win. You want to just take a guess at destination? I mean, you win no matter what.
1095.
Oh my gosh, that was close. 1090.
Oh, wow.
Wow, good job.
Getting better at this.
You are getting better at this. So it's still a value. Like when you look at what you're paying for it and for the power, especially the RS I drove. So $28,000. You have a car that drives nicely. It has plenty of room. It says 5. This is a 4-person car. I mean, you don't want to shove a person in the middle of those rear seats unless you're going around the block. No one's going to be comfortable. But even with Russ sitting in the front seats and he's 6'3", there was still room for the person back. You didn't have to do that awkward. When you kind of sit sideways, you move your knees like to the left or to the right because you can't put them straight in front of you without them being jammed into the seat back. You didn't have to do that. You could still sit normally, even with the seat fully back, which is something that's a big deal in a car this size. And it has a decent amount of cargo room as well. It has 20.4 cubic feet behind those rear seats. That's a little less. That's going to be less than like a Civic hatchback, but it's less than a Corolla hatchback. Get this. It's Corolla hatchback 17.8 cubic feet. Unless you do the thing that gets rid of the spare tire, then it's 23. So depending on how you have your Corolla hatchback,
there's like a floor panel there in the cargo area that you can drop down if you take out the spare tire. Yeah.
You take out the spare tire. So if you don't care about the spare tire, you have more. If you care about the spare tire, you have less. But
everyone should care about their spare tire.
Everyone should care about that because the minute you don't care, that's when you need it. That is when
especially if you're driving someplace like Boston or here in Michigan, where potholes will eat your tires
in a heartbeat. They will eat your tires,
and there's a better than even chance that at some point in your driving history you will have a tire sacrificed to a pothole, and
tire, because you will not see it. And you will hit it thinking, oh, that's not really much of a bam. And you will go right through it. You're like, oh, that's the end of that tire.
And, I've been there, done that a couple of times. And even if you're not going to change the spare, put the spare on yourself. If you're going to call for roadside assistance to put on the spare for it.
Yeah.
At least they won't have to put it on a flatbed to take it somewhere.
Right. Because you don't want to have to deal with that. If you got the spare, no matter where you are, somebody, if not you, can change your tire. Yeah. And that's what you want. So I would never option to not have a spare. That's just where I live and my life experience, not going to do that. So I like the Impreza. And I like that, they have now like an 11.6-inch vertical screen. They have that vertical screen in other models, but it's new to this, unless you get the base trim and then you still have that like dual 7-inch screen setup, which I'm not so keen on. But I like in this that it looks good. I think it makes, it's a nice little car. I'm thumbs up for the Subaru Impreza.
It's not quite, it's not a replacement for a GTI.
It is not. No, it's not.
But it's a pleasant enough car to drive. It's got enough performance. It's the standard all-wheel drive on all Subarus. Is a great feature to have if you live somewhere where it snows.
Like those prices, that's not like a front-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive. That is with standard all-wheel drive. So that's. All-wheel drive can add a couple $1,000s to the car, depending on the car. So figure that into that pricing. It really is a good deal. And they're rugged as heck. And they're durable. You can let the dogs run all over them and then everything's still fine. Just dust it off. It's like, no problem, muddy paws, whatever.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. I I checked. I also had an Impreza RS
You
back
did
last October. It was farther
last
back than I
October.
thought.
Wow. Okay.
The one I had more, the Subaru I had more recently in the spring was a Crosstrek Wilderness. So,
Okay.
which is similar but different. But yeah, I had the Impreza, a red Impreza RS back in October.
Oh, see, yours is red. That was mine again with the white cars. I even had a white for this. I'm like, why are all my cars white all of a sudden?
Maybe somebody who runs the fleet in New England has pissed somebody off. You
It
never know.
could happen. Could
Could
happen.
happen. All right. Let's see. I had and actually, as we record this, it just went back this afternoon
Oh,
because we're actually recording a little early this week
we
because of
are.
travel this weekend. Um, but I had the 2024 Hyundai Kona EV, or Kona Electric, as it's more properly
Do they call it,
badged.
why do they do that? Some are EV, some just don't even say anything about it, and they have an electric powertrain or an electric propulsion system. Then there's electrified, and then there's like why do we
Well,
know?
electrified is the terminology, the branding that Genesis uses, like for the GV70 and the G80, they call them electrified. So part of it is brand dependent. Some of it is like for Hyundai, for the Hyundai vehicles, for the various Ionic models. Ionic is just if it's badged as an Ionic, it's electric by default. So
That's true.
they don't bother to call it an EV.
It's like how
And then,
Audi calls them e-tron. It's the
yeah,
e-tron, it's automatically an electric.
and then there's the outlier, which is the Kona, which is the Kona Electric. And Robbie has a Kona Electric, but he has the previous generation model. He doesn't have the new one because
Okay.
that lease was coming up, and they just got a screaming deal on a lease on a new Ionic 5. So for a couple of months, they have two. They have the old Kona EV, and the new Ionic 5. So the new Kona is quite a bit bigger. It's like 6 or 7 inches longer than the first gen Kona, which is good in one major respect, in that the old Kona, the back seat was very tight. It was. I really liked the styling of the old Kona. It was cute. It was a great little city car. But that the inherent compromise with making something that small is that there's going to be some seat room that's going to be sacrificed. And in this case, it was the back seat. The new Kona is quite a bit larger. The styling, I don't like it as much as the old Kona.
Why not?
I don't know. It just looks a little frumpy to me. It just,
So we've called the Impreza lukewarm and we've called the Kona frumpy. We're on a roll tonight.
yeah. Especially in the color that on the Kona Electric, for some inexplicable reason, Hyundai offers one interesting color. And all the rest are, so there's this bright yellow, the neoteric yellow that
Okay.
you can get, which is like a neon yellow with a slight greenish hue to it. And it's a cool, fun color. And then the other 6 colors are abyss black pearl, cyber gray metallic, atlas white, ecotronic gray pearl.
Well, that sounds cool.
No, it's boring. It's gray. It's another gray. So they got 2 grays, a white, a black, and then the other 2 colors they have. There's a mirage green, which is a grayish green. So it's not really a bright, vibrant green. It's a boring green.
Okay.
And meta blue pearl, which is it's better. It's not it's not a bold blue. It's kind of a palish blue. But the one that I had was the which one was it? The cyber gray metallic.
So I was hoping you got the neo. What is
No.
it? Neo. I want to say Neolithic, and that's not it. Neo, whatever
No,
it
it's not.
is.
Neoteric yellow.
Neoteric. There we
Whatever
go.
the hell that means. I wish it was that color. It certainly would have been more interesting to look at. But it was the cyber gray, which is a light gray, which is just It's
Boring.
boring. It's really boring.
It's no so crystal red metallic.
No, not even remotely close. It is probably one of the last colors I would ever select. I would even go with the relatively boring green over the cyber gray metallic. But
Don't you wish they were honest about the colors? What color is this? Oh, this is our relatively boring green. This is our
yeah,
bland white. This is our I don't care black. Like whatever the colors you could come up with.
I mean, for a smaller crossover, it's supposed to be fun. I would have loved to have seen Hyundai do more fun colors on this thing, because they did have more fun colors on the old Kona, but not on the new one.
They changed it. There must have been probably just didn't have enough people who bought it.
I don't know. So anyway, boring color. Inside, it does have a few mild splashes of that neoteric yellow trim. So like across the dashboard, there's a yellow strip, and there's some yellow in the steering wheel, and in the seats, there's like a yellow vertical stripe in the seat back. So there's just a few little hints of the neoteric yellow on the inside. But I'd love to have more of it everywhere.
Yeah.
And like I said, to me, the design of the new generation Kona, especially in that gray, just looks a little frumpy.
Oh, I gotta pull that now. I gotta look at the Kona and see if I agree with frumpy.
But the back seat is much more usable now than it was in the old one. It's it's quite usable for adults. I fit comfortably back there now. The one that I had, they have three trim levels. They have the SE, the base trim, and the SEL, and the Limited. The Limited has pretty much everything on it. There's basically no options on that. The SE, the cheap one, previously all the Kona EVs had the same battery, same motor. This and the base one, which is the one that Robbie has, was $34,000.
Okay.
The new one, the SE, is a little bit cheaper. It's now $32,675, but you sacrifice a little bit of battery and a little bit of power. And so for the SEL, which gets a 65 kilowatt hour battery pack, and the Limited, which also has the same battery, they get 261 miles of range on the EPA rated range.
Okay.
The SE only has 48.6 kilowatt hour battery and only 200 miles of range. Now, that said, 200 miles is actually plenty for most people, especially for the way you're probably not going to be using this using a Kona for cross country road trips.
Right.
This is going to be a commuter car, an around town commuter car for most people, or like for me here, if I was driving from Ypsilanti to Dearborn or Detroit, it's like 30 miles, 25 miles each way, 200-mile range. It's going to be fine. So, if you're looking for an EV and you're on a little bit tighter budget, just get the SE. The 200-mile range is fine. It's not going to be quite as quick because it's only 133 horsepower versus 201 for the SEL Unlimited. If you want that little bit of extra range and the little bit of extra performance, go for the SEL, the middle trim. And as is frequently the case, the middle trim is usually the sweet spot for any vehicle that you're buying.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually got the mix of features and options that you actually want on the car at a lower price point than whatever the high end model is. And yeah, you might give up a few things, like in the case of the Kona, you get cloth seats instead of the leatherette seats. I think there's no sunroof on the SEL, but most people never actually use the sunroof anyway. So for most people, the SEL at $36,675 is actually probably going to be the sweet spot. But like I said, if your budget's a little tighter, you can save $4,000, get the SE. You still got 200 miles of range. Excellent. Still going to be an excellent car. I think you're generally going to really like it. the new Konas, have newer style Hyundai infotainment screen. So it's like one big curved piece there with two 12.3-inch displays, touchscreen in the middle for your infotainment, and then digital instrument cluster in front of you where it belongs. The seats are comfortable. It's very pleasant to drive. It's quick enough off the line. Because it's the same motor that was in the old one, but because it's bigger, it's also a little bit heavier, so it doesn't feel quite as sprightly off the line as the original Kona EV. But it's still, again, it's 200 horsepower. You're going to be fine. You're
Mm-hmm.
not, this is not a sports car. You're not going to be winning any drag races against Model 3 performances or Mach-E GT.
No.
But that's why they make the Ioniq 5N.
There you go.
For those races. This is a great car to drive around day to day. And I averaged, over the course of the week I had it, I averaged 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour, which included quite a bit of highway driving with the air conditioning on because it's summertime and it was warm.
Mm-hmm.
And around town, I was getting closer to 4.3, 4.2, 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour, which is really awesome. That is outstanding efficiency. It's near the top of what you can get in the market today.
Mm-hmm.
So that 261 mile range that it's rated at for the SEL and the Limited, very realistic. Even using air conditioning. One thing you do give up by going with the Kona instead of the Ioniq 5 is it doesn't have the full suite of EGMP hardware.
Mm-hmm.
So where the Ioniq 5, EV6, Ioniq 6, those all have an 800 volt electrical system, and they'll charge crazy fast, like almost 240 kilowatts. This is a 400 volt system. It'll charge at about 100 kilowatts on DC fast charging. On AC level 2, you can get up to 11 kilowatts charging, which is actually quite fast for home charging. 11 kilowatts peak, and 100 kilowatts, which will do 10 to 80% charge in 43 minutes. So it's quite a bit slower than the Ioniq 5, but still very good. One on the Limited, you can get the vehicle to load capability, so you get an adapter that plugs into the charge port, and that lets you plug in, AC devices, so you get, I think, 1.2 kilowatts coming out. So, if you're taking this and, going on a little weekend camping getaway, you can plug in your coffee maker and your grinder and other stuff to that and run it off of there. So that's handy to have. What else? It's a very pleasant, entry level EV. And especially for the SE, I think, it's a pretty good deal. Because it is made in Korea, it doesn't qualify for the tax credit if you're buying one. If you lease one, Hyundai does do the pass through on the tax credit, so you can get some really good lease deals on these things.
Which is such kind of a neat thing. You can actually get such a deal now because of how they do the pass through.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool how they do that.
Yeah. Hopefully that won't get killed, after November.
Yeah.
Because it's handy to have, but increasingly we're seeing production of a lot of these models shifting to the US or to North America. And so that, more and more of these vehicles will be eligible. Although not every EV that's built in the US is eligible, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But overall, I like it a lot. I like the Kona. It's not, to my eyes, it's not the prettiest car on the road, but that's a matter of taste. What you were looking it up again?
I did. I looked it up while you were talking. I don't dislike it, but it does look a little different. I think I like the prior one. I'm with you. I like the prior one a little bit better.
Yeah, it looks a little more fun.
Yeah, they got rid of some of the quirky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it still looks good. I think it still looks good, but it's that comparison thing. When you look at, you're like, oh, we had this and they took it away and they gave us that. Well, now I'm not pleased. If you had never seen what they had before, we'd probably like this more.
yeah, you'd probably be fine.
Right?
It's only in comparison to its predecessor.
Exactly. Then suddenly it's like, wait a minute.
So the the limited that I had came out to a grand total of $42,630. Are you messing around with the?
I was not trying my cursor was sitting there and I didn't know what just happened. And I'm like, I'm not even touching the mouse. I'm like, what? Our screens just went click, 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 click. We did a variety.
Yeah, for those people listening, we use a website called StreamYard for recording. So we can see each other. We don't, except for the short clips that I put out sometimes, we don't publish the video of the whole show. But so we can see each other when we're talking, and all of a sudden, you can select different formats.
So the bottom, and I think I just left my cursor there, and it got confused. It's like click, click, click. I'm like, oh gosh, stop.
Yeah, so they have different formats of how many boxes and how they're arranged.
So I completely confused Sam, but believe me, I was just as confused. I'm like, is that me doing that?
I know my hand was not on the mouse, so I was pretty sure it wasn't me. But
I had changed back from the screen. I was looking at the Kona, and when I came back, I swiped over the bottom. I must have it's just gonna go through them all.
All right. So anyway.
Yes.
The Kona Electric Limited was $42,630. Want to guess the freight, the delivery charge?
I'm going to go with $995.
$1,375.
We're not even close.
A little bit off.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into some topics this week. So before we get into that, one thing I want to do a little rant here against Apple.
Oh, a rant.
Yes.
Let me get comfortable. Okay, go for it.
So if you listen to other podcasts, you may have heard in the past week about what Apple is doing with Patreon. And we really appreciate our Patreon supporters. If you are supporting us on Patreon, you're getting ad-free versions of the shows, so no ads in there. You get early access to stuff like interviews and some other content that I post for patrons first, and then later on at some point it comes into the main show. And Patreon is a great service. A lot of content creators, podcasters, YouTubers, a lot of people use Patreon, in order to make some money to support what they're doing. And, we're taking the funds that come from this to help pay for server costs and hosting costs for the website and for the audio and, for distribution and everything. And also, I pay a few bucks to Nicole and Robbie for their time for doing this show. So anyway, Patreon, as part of the service, they take like an 8% cut of what you guys pay to us. So 8% of that goes to them to cover their cost for running their servers and providing the service and everything, and also to cover the processing fees for the payments. Because credit cards charge processing fees. 2.5% to 3% processing fees, and so that money they take a little slice, and it's actually a very reasonable slice of what comes in. I think 8%. I'm cool with that. This past week, we got a notice from Patreon that starting in November, if anyone that is subscribing or supporting anyone through Patreon, using the iOS app, so if you're on an iPad or an iPhone, and you're using that to subscribe and pay for creators, Apple is now insisting on taking 30% of that.
Wow.
And 30% is their standard fee that they charge everybody. It's one thing for Apple to take a 30% cut, for app developers that are putting selling their apps through the iOS App Store. Because they're doing the processing fees, they're providing the hosting costs, providing the hosting for the apps and doing a bunch of other stuff. 30% is still kind of high, but it is what it is. But what I vehemently disagree with is stuff like this, where Apple is not actually providing anything for that 30% cut. They're not hosting the files. They're not providing any promotion for the stuff that we're doing. They're doing nothing, but they want 30% of anything that people pay to Patreon through the iOS app.
So what's the alternative? If you're using the iOS app now to pay for it, what do you need to do instead to avoid that?
If you go to patreon.com, go to the website, and you subscribe to all the creators, not just us, but anybody that you're supporting through Patreon, do it through the Patreon website. Don't do it through the iOS app. Don't do it through your phone. Because what Patreon is required to do is use Apple's in-app purchasing system, and that's where Apple takes their 30% cut. If you do it through the website, Apple has no involvement in it at all. And so I would just recommend, that whether you're supporting us or any other creators out there, and there's, several million people, creators that use Patreon, and it's a fantastic service. It's a great way to support people whose work you appreciate. And we really appreciate those of you that are supporting us through Patreon. But if you're doing it through the iOS app, start doing it through the website. If you're not doing it and you're thinking about subscribing or, supporting anybody, again, just go to the website. Don't use the iOS app.
That's easy to work around.
Easy workaround. And then Apple doesn't have to take 30% cut. More of the money goes to the creators.
Yay.
So,
for anything, for any of the stuff you do on Patreon. So yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah. All right. So back to cars. We have complained somewhat about the quality of EV charging in this country, and rightfully so. And those, we are not the only ones. Pretty much anybody that has tried to use public charging, particularly if you're using anything but Electrify America, or not Electrify America, the Tesla Supercharger network.
Yes.
The experience can be rather miserable for a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's not always great.
Yeah. So our friends at JD Power, who do consumer surveys, to evaluate all kinds of stuff. One of the many surveys that they do is an EV charging. Let's see, electric vehicle experience public charging study, and they've been doing this one quarterly for the last at least the last couple of years. I'm not sure quite how far back it goes, but they do a survey of consumers, and they ask a whole bunch of questions, and they generate a score on a 1,000-point scale. And this past quarter, for the second quarter of 2024, for the second consecutive quarter, the score for the public EV charging in the U.S. has actually increased.
That's good.
Yeah, it's all the way up to 664 now out of 1,000.
Which I think if I was grading in school, isn't that a D?
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
So it went up from an F to a D if it went up by 10 points. So that's not even. It was like a D minus. Now it's just a D.
Yeah. And that is only a 10 point increase from the second quarter of 2023.
Which is not a lot on a 1,000-point scale.
But, you got to take what you can get.
But it says that's only for DC fast chargers. If you look at level 2, if the want part of that, satisfaction with public level 2 charging has gone down to 614, which was only a decrease of 3 points.
Yeah,
not a lot. So we're still. I mean, I feel like we're still.
It's not great.
What we want it, people.
Yeah. Tesla owners using the supercharger network, though, had a score of 743, which is also down by 2 points from last year. But it's only 2 points.
Yeah,
but that's substantially better than everybody else.
Yeah, it's still not perfect, but it's way the heck better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the good thing is these numbers aren't. It would be worse if the numbers are kind of like 10 points. So we're kind of just flexing a little bit, like we're kind of in the same zone. At least it's not plummeting, at least we're suddenly not in a situation where it's like, oh, it went from 650 to 520, it's not going the wrong direction. It feels like it's given that the growth and the improvement is still very much in process, the number kind of makes sense. We haven't seen a significant change just yet.
Another finding from the study is that EV owners apparently favor automatic payments. So having systems like plug and charge, where you just plug the charger into your car and it starts charging, and somewhere in your car or in your in the app or something, it's already, your payment method is already set up in there, so you don't have to mess around with pulling out a credit card or using an app to tap your phone on the charger. And I think probably a big part of that has to do with the fact that oftentimes these things aren't working right. The card readers and whatever else are not always working right on the chargers. Yeah. So having plug and charge absolutely helps. And probably also helps that because most chargers are not covered, they don't have a canopy or anything like that. And if you pull up to a charger and it's raining, the last thing you want to be doing is standing there screwing around with your credit card and trying to get payments set up. So automatic payments definitely a big help. And Robbie just arrived, so
like a thief in the night, I appear.
Woohoo! Robbie's here. Poof.
Welcome back, Robbie.
Magical.
So that, we were just finishing up with the JD Power EV charging satisfaction survey. Slight progress. Things are getting ever so slightly better. But still a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of work to do. And like part of SAE's deal where I work is helping make that happen. And so I actually have a video I'm working on right now about how people are working to get it better, how we're working to make sure that there are people to work on these things, these stations, because there's it breaks down and then what? It just sits there. If you go to a regular station, you'll see a station broken for like a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week. There's not enough people to work on them. So I talked to some automakers. I talked to some charging station providers, and I talked to some people who are actually building these stations, or maintaining, or trying to create a system where we have an army of maintenance people who can work on these stations and get paid like real good money, actually. So yeah, it's not great. It's getting better.
And the other big problem now is you get people slicing off the cables off of DC fast chargers.
Why is that happening? Are people stealing the copper or something in it, or are people?
Yeah,
is it really that? Is that really? Is it a big problem, or is it like it happened?
I think it's one of those things. Someone saw someone do it, but it's only. I think that the payoff is like maybe $40. Like that's how much copper. It's not a lot. It's not a big win.
$1,000 when you lop off that cable.
Yeah, for the amount of work that takes to do it, the thing that you're out in the open and everyone can see you.
Yeah,
it's not a. If I were a copper thief, let me just put my copper thief hat on.
Everybody know exactly how to do this.
If I were a copper thief, I would not. I would more likely find abandoned houses because you're inside, no one can see you doing your dastardly D's, as opposed to I'm going to pull up my whatever to my truck. I guess you need a truck maybe because you can stand in the back so you can slice off, maybe get electrocuted because at least the electricity's turned off.
The house has no power, but like there's that's the sound of energy.
Yes, we know that there's no power going through those when they're not enabled, but what if someone what if it gets pinged or something? Like no, don't do that
because you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, which is
like $40. And how long must it take to cut through that thing? A good 5-10 minutes.
If anybody out there's ever tried to chop
a big set of bolt cutters, might be able to slice through
like
it.
A giant, you're like, like you'd have to buy like a slicer, like a mechanical slicer.
It's like, who's the thief? The one with the biceps that are like from slicing. Like the beefy one.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how widespread it is. It's one of those things where it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I saw it happened at these 3 places. So suddenly it's an epidemic, and that's that's just how things are sort of covered now. If three things happen as soon as it gets hit, like, oh, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
what I
haven't.
didn't know. Like, is it really that bad, or is it this sort of like a?
I'm not really sure. I haven't. I've driven up and down the state a couple times with EVs in the last month. I go drive EVs and I haven't seen it. And apparently, remember everyone, Northern California is a bastion of evil and criminal. It's lawless. It's a lawless wasteland, according to some people.
Wow.
And yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you're probably much more likely to encounter a Charger that's just broken rather than vandalized.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's a whole the whole station near my house. It's still down. I drove by it. I was driving by it to see if I get some B-roll. So I'm probably going to go for this video about how things would get better.
Hoping to catch the technicians at work fixing it.
Yeah, but you have to be very forthcoming about this. I can't be like pie in the sky, everything's awesome, because it's not. And it's not fair to people, and you can't, I can't tell people that everything's awesome because it's not awesome. But it's getting better. And again, early days. We're still Nokia brick phone of EVs. That's where we're at.
Yep.
We can play Snake, and you can call somebody.
Well, less than 2%, about 1.5, 1.6% of all the vehicles on the road in the U.S. right now are electric. So it is still very, very early. And
like 80% of those are around me.
Yeah.
They're all right by you.
It's like 25% or something of like new car sales in the Bay Area, like EVs. Yeah. It's something high.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right. Well, was there anything that you drove this week that you wanted to talk about?
I very quickly, I went to Detroit for something I'm not allowed to talk about yet.
But I saw you. We were there.
I saw, together. Sam was there, and he also cannot talk about. So we saw a thing we can't talk about.
Actually, we saw two things we can't talk about.
That's true. We did see two things. But recently, I've driven the Prius Prime, which I hadn't driven. The latest version. I drove the. I think it might have been the first version of the Prius Prime, the one that when you backed up, it beeped, but only on the inside the car.
Oh gosh!
My friends bought that car, and they were like, "What is happening?"
I always thought that was so bizarre.
It was very weird, right? Because it was like it was just telling you that you're backing up. It was a very weird decision that they made. Like they wanted the backup sound, but then they're like, "Oh, we don't have any external speakers." Yeah, they could just put it through the horn, because that's how like people used to use their CB radios, where you could talk to people. You're on the side of the road, Anyway, I drove the Prius Prime. I got I because I'm running around doing stuff. I don't have them running, but I had essentially almost the base model, which is fine. Which I'm always a big fan of base model cars. Like it didn't have electric seats, it didn't have auto lights, it didn't have well, I don't know, some other things.
How on earth did you survive?
It was easy. It's like driving my BRZ except for Prius, but not exactly the same. Front wheel drive, nice little car. Whatever the mileage is, I'm sure that's what it got. Because I had such a small amount of time in the vehicle that I just barely got the battery empty while I was driving it around. And of course I didn't have time to charge it all the way, because by the time I got it, like it was 80%. So this is all sort of like a short-term test, but I can say that when with the steering wheel and the dash cluster, I had to put the steering wheel down further than I would on a regular car in order to see the entirety of the dash cluster. But I actually like the steering wheel a little bit down.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is fine. But but then I did a thing where I'm Nicole's size, and I kind of scooched down a little bit. I was like, oh yeah, this is not ideal for her.
It's not great, right? When she like hunched, like, I can't see anything. It's not the design is not Nicole friendly.
Yeah, but it's I think it's, as a commuter car, I think it really hits all those little marks where the seats are just firm enough where they're going to sort of wear into the groove of your back and your ass. So it's like it's not like they're not super soft, but you're like, okay, you give me like 3 months and this is going to be me. It's going to be like molded to the contours of my special body. Yeah, it was a nice drive around, a little front wheel drive car. A little bit. It looks, again, big fan of the looks compared to what it's been for 1,000 years. There's enough room in the back with the little flappy cover for my carry-on and my backpack, and I could have thrown a few more things in there. Yeah, I liked it. Again, short amount of time. I had it for like an evening, and then the next day I drove something else, which I was like,
So I just looked it up. The base Prius Prime SE is rated at 45 miles of electric range, and then 52 miles per gallon combined when it's in hybrid mode after the battery's depleted. So
even if you don't plug it in,
very efficient.
Yeah, because it was like up like you're getting 50 or 70 miles per gallon. I'm like, I don't think this is right. But I also couldn't figure out how to do like a long term, like since charge. It was like every time I got into the car, it just reset, and I was like, oh, all right. So I couldn't find anywhere. I didn't have enough time to figure out like all the how to get data from it.
But when I've driven the Prius Prime before, those numbers are realistic. I've gotten like, I think I had an XSE, I think, rather than the SE, which has the 20-inch wheels instead of the 18s. And, that one's rated at 40 miles of range. I think I got like 43 or something on my test loop. So, it's realistic. The range numbers and the fuel economy are very realistic. And that SE starts at 32,975. So 33 grand for a plug-in hybrid with 45 miles of range.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty sweet. It's a Toyota, so you can like shoot it with like bullets, drop it out of a plane, light on fire. It's gonna go. That's the deal. That's the deal with the Toyotas. You get in a Toyota, you're like, even if it like remember the 4Runner up until it was updated like 15 years old, but you got in, you're like, this thing's gonna last until I'm gonna have to pass this down to my grandchildren.
It's never
That's the deal with it.
And you can get the Prius Prime in supersonic red, which is a very cool.
They had a really nice blue.
Yeah,
I was in, and I'm pretty sure it was just like the
reservoir blue. I think is
the reservoir blue. It was a nice color.
Yeah,
and it was a good look. I really enjoyed it. I'm happy I finally got some time behind the wheel with it. And again, if you are, I had a conversation with somebody the other day who was like, he's like, I don't understand the hate for hybrids and plug-in hybrids. I'm like, for some people, you can only buy one car. And you can't like afford to like, me and my wife sometimes we'll go like a long distance and we want to take the dog, so we'll rent a car because we're fancy people. Some people, when growing up, we had one car. We couldn't rent things. We were less than fancy people. And when you just need one car, but you also kind of want to be, save a little money and maybe you need that hit of like that dopamine hit of caring about the environment, then like a plug-in hybrid, like especially their Prius Prime, if you got to commute every day and you can charge it up at night, that's a pretty sweet deal because most of the time you're going to be driving on EV mode anyway.
Yeah, and this thing is basically the third generation Chevy Volt. I mean, this is what a Gen 3 Volt would have been if they hadn't canceled it.
Yeah, definitely.
And most Volt owners, they plug it in at night. And I remember, when they were launching the second gen Volt, even with the first gen Volt, they said, the telemetry data they had, 90% of all trips were done exclusively on electric.
Yeah.
So, with 40 plus miles of electric range, this is basically an EV that, when you want to take a road trip, you don't have to worry about planning where you're going to stop to charge. Then you just drive it as a really ridiculously efficient hybrid.
Yeah. So there you go.
All right.
I still want that tiny FJ Cruiser though, electric FJ Cruiser from Toyota. So anyone from Toyota is listening, if you could get on that, that'd
that's
be
what you like. That's your goal.
It's like the Wrangler problem that I have. Like for years, like the current generation Wrangler, awesome. It's an amazing vehicle, but the last 2-3 before, not great. They're like the Harley Davidson of cars. People are like, should I get a Wrangler? And I'm like, no, gosh, no. Unless that's the thing you want, you should not get a Wrangler. If someone were like, say, hey, I got a Wrangler soft top for, here's a deal. I'd be like, oh yeah, here, take my money. I don't need it, but I kind of want a Wrangler, even a trash one.
Swap one.
Just driving around, take the doors off. Come on.
Get like my neighbor's 97 TJ.
Oh gosh.
Oh
Oof.
gosh, how's that working out?
Oh, well, he does not use it as a daily driver.
No
he
kidding.
he only uses it for off-roading.
Okay.
So it's all he's got a winch and roll cage.
Oh, has he
bars
pulled
on
all
there.
the parts out and put new parts on it? Like
Yeah,
that
I mean
hardcore,
he's got a little he like I don't know 15 20 years ago he built a second story on his garage. So he's got like a little machine shop up there, and he's got
Wow.
welding gear. And like last year or the year before, he took off the steel fenders off the Wrangler and fabricated new aluminum ones to save weight.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And it's
those
on
people,
35.
they can buy any generation Wrangler and be fine.
I say it doesn't matter what he buys because he's just going to turn it into whatever he wants. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're going to turn into a crazy.
Well, this is the same neighbor that has that earlier this year bought a Ford F550 chassis cab, and he's building it into an overlanding rig.
Wow.
So he used to have a Winnebago, a 30-foot Winnebago, and he would tow the Wrangler out to Moab, for vacation, and go, then head out into the desert with the Wrangler, or up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And he sold the Winnebago last year, and he's building the F550 into an overlanding rig, which is going to be pretty crazy when it's all done.
I bet.
Yeah.
Kind of jealous.
There you go. And that's the people you want buying those cars.
Right?
The people are really, really doing the thing.
Exactly.
Legit.
Yep.
Too legit to quit.
Well, when we left that place that we're not supposed to talk about on Monday, or when I left that place that we're not supposed to talk about on Monday, I headed straight to the airport because I had to fly down to Charleston, South Carolina, because as of yesterday, Polestar officially launched U.S. production of the Polestar 3.
Woohoo!
So in Charleston is a Volvo Cars factory, where when they opened it in 2018 or 19, I think, they started off building the S60 there. And in June, the end of June, they finished building the S60s. And beginning of June, they started production of the new EX90 electric 3-row. So it's basically an electric replacement for the XC90. And they started building those in early June. And yesterday they started formal production of the Polestar 3. They've been building pre-production units for a while. And so got to see the body shop and the production line and the battery pack assembly line. And it's pretty cool, but also learned some interesting stuff while we were there. We haven't got a chance to drive the Polestar 3 yet. That's coming up in September. But did get to ride in it. They picked us up from the airport in the Polestar 3. Very, very nice car. Really like it a lot so far, at least as a passenger. It's very pleasant. But one thing that the EX90 and the Polestar 3 will not have access to when they go on sale in the next few weeks is a $7,500 tax credit, because the battery pack is sourced from China.
Oh.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. They use CATL batteries, which they're currently working on trying to resource that from a different supplier where they're not made in China. And both for cost reasons as well as for IRA eligibility, and also for sustainability reasons, because they're trying to do as much local for local production as they can. But Polestar, it's been a little rough for Polestar the last year or two, because the Polestar 3 was actually supposed to go on sale about almost a year ago, and it got delayed. So the Polestar 3 and the EX90 both ride on Volvo's new SPA2. There's scalable product architecture. It's a second generation version of that, which is EV only. So I specifically asked, is this a flexible platform like what BMW does, where it could potentially also be built as a hybrid or plug-in hybrid? I said, nope, it's a BEV-only platform. And so it's all new. Everything about it is new for Volvo and Polestar, including the new software platform. And that they were having trouble with that last year, getting that finished and working properly. And so that led to like a 9 or 10 month delay in start of production of those two vehicles while they finished the software. We'll see how finished it is when we get to drive it. I'm going to be driving the EX90 next week. But that meant that Polestar only had one product available to sell,
for a
which
long
was
time.
the Polestar 2, which nice car. I think we all like it.
Yeah.
But it's all they had, and Polestar only has 27 dealers in the U.S. right now, which is not a lot. So
Yeah.
they've been selling. I think averaged somewhere around 600 or 700 units a month for the past year, which is not outstanding. But Thomas Engeleth, who's the CEO of Polestar, was there, and also Anders. Why am I blanking on his name now? He used to be CEO of Volvo Americas. Gustafson, yeah, Anders Gustafson, and Anders said, goal is to get to 47 dealers by the end of 2025, which will help. It'll definitely make it easier. And, by that point, they will have, in addition to the Polestar 3, they will also have the Polestar 4. They did confirm that the Polestar 4, despite the fact that it is currently built in China, and they will start production of the 4 in South Korea by this time next year, by middle of next year. And so once they start Korean production, the U.S. supply will be coming from South Korea. But for now, they will actually be bringing Polestar 4s in from China. And they are going to keep the original price, which I think starting price was a little under $50,000 for that. So they're not going to be passing along the 100% tariff on Chinese built EVs. So Geely, which owns Polestar and Volvo, they're just going to eat that for the time being until they can get cars out of Korea.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a tough. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a tough. I mean, yeah. I mean, we all like the Polestar too, even though it makes Sam feel like he's sitting he's a tiny child because the shoulder line's so high. I'm like, it's perfect for me, Sam.
Down low in a bathtub,
Like, it's fine for me. I don't know what everyone else is complaining about. Mr. Tall, Mr. Long. What do you call this thing? Torso.
Yeah.
We're awake when we have afternoon podcasts.
But in the plant, one interesting thing we did see in the body shop is they have one line in there that can actually produce up to 3 different body styles. Right now, they're just doing the 2, the EX90 and the Polestar 3. Mm-hmm. And one of the neat features that they have in there is they have something called remote laser welding. So a lot of automakers are now using laser welding as an alternative to spot welding. So spot welding, you take 2 pieces of steel and you put it, you have a clamp, and there's a really high electric current that goes through there, heats it up and welds the 2 pieces together in this clamp. Laser welding, as the name implies, traditional laser welding, you have, a laser head, that's on some sort of industrial robotic arm that goes around and does the welds, and does a kind of a seam weld. The remote laser welding is a little different, where the laser head is actually stationary, and then they have a mirror that's on a gimbal that they use to guide the laser to do the welds.
So pew pew pew, and it just bounces off the mirror.
Yeah, it bounces off the mirror, hits the metal. And
so many things could have been solved in Star Wars if they just had mirrors.
I know. just put some mirrors on the Millennium Falcon, and
just like
all would have been right with the world.
Yeah.
Ping, 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 ping. Yep, sorry.
But the thing they said about the remote laser welding, the processing can actually go almost 50 times faster because the laser head doesn't actually have to move. The laser head is stationary.
What's the advantage to it? Okay,
you're just moving the mirror around, and they can program it to do all kinds of different welds. So you can do just do it like a straight weld. You can do like a wave. And they showed us on one of the bodies on around the door frame where they had it was like the weld was like there was a series of welds that were shaped like C's. So it was open on one side and then closed on the other side. So it was like an ellipse that was was open on one side. That's kind of what the shape was like, if you can visualize that. And what that does, by having having it that way, it gives it different properties, different characteristics for shearing, depending on which direction the force is coming from. So they can optimize the properties for crash protection, for occupant protection. So in one direction, it'll shear more easily. In the other direction, it's stronger, which is really cool. And
that's
then
cool.
and then the other thing is, because the laser welds are longer but thinner compared to a spot weld, to do a spot weld, you've got to have flanges on the steel stampings, on the metal stampings, where you're actually going to grab it. The flanges are what join together. And, because of the size of the spot weld head, the flange has to be a certain minimum width, so you have enough metal to contact. With the laser weld, you can actually make those flanges about half as wide, which means that you can have the same strength, but use less metal, have larger openings, so it becomes lighter but still stronger than a spot weld. So some really interesting stuff that they're doing there.
Cool.
And one thing we asked the plant manager about, what he thought about having humanoid robots in the plant building stuff. And he said, we do have some cobots, which are the cooperative robots, which are, they're like, they look like traditional industrial robots that you've probably seen some pictures of. But they're designed to work side by side with humans, so that, since, if it presses up against a person, it'll detect it and back off. So they're designed to work in the same smaller space, whereas the big industrial robots are usually in cages and you can't go in there while it's moving around. But he said, I don't want robots running around my factory. So
yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't
no humanoid robots.
Yeah, the humanoid robot thing doesn't. It's sort of like, we can make the robot be anything. Why does it have to be like a person?
Yeah.
If it needs to do a certain task and that task is better taken care of by a dog or a crab or some sort of magical eel robot, then make that robot. It doesn't have to be the person, because we already got the people who can do that, and they seem to be doing okay.
Yeah. All right. So so soon the EX90 and the Polestar 3 will be hitting Volvo and Polestar dealers across the country.
Very cool.
Yeah. So this week is Monterey Car Week. None of us are there.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm saying yay just because I've done a lot of traveling and I'm very tired. And I have to travel to Germany next week, and I'm just like, I had invitations to do things, and I'm like, and I'm sorry, I probably should have gone so I could tell you all the majesty of Monterey Car Week, but also I have a show tomorrow. I had a show last night. I'm just tired. I'm sorry, everyone. I can tell you what it was like last year, though.
This is all Robbie's fault that we can't tell you more, basically.
I'm sorry.
To now? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, we have been fortunate enough to see some of the stuff that's being shown off at Monterey Car Week, and there's some interesting concepts and some production models. So first thing that for some reason is being unveiled at Monterey Car Week is the 2025 Lincoln Navigator. Lincoln is calling it all new. It does have an all new interior, or mostly new interior. And then the exterior, most of the sheet metal is carryover. but they've applied like a similar style of grille and lights that we got on the Nautilus and the Aviator for 2025. So, bigger grille, new lights that, on the headlights and the running lamps. You've got a dual horizontal strip you've got the backlit Lincoln Star dual horizontal strip all the way across and going into like the feather like trim at the edges of it, that curves up on the front, and then on the rear on the tail lights it curves down, kind of like they originally showed on the Lincoln Star concept a couple of years ago. It looks fine. It's a nice update. Inside they've got the same 48-inch curved display from the Nautilus and the same ovoid steering wheel.
I don't
and
mind
electromechanical vents. You have to
Dude,
control through
I do not.
touchscreen.
I don't.
This guy.
Why?
No.
Why?
Dang
Please
it.
stop.
You don't.
Please. And also, the Navigator is essentially the car that picks you up at the airport. That's the Navigator. So it doesn't need a giant screen, to be honest.
Oh my gosh!
Like when I did the last gen, the one before the last gen, the launch of the last gen Navigator, I was just like, this is the greatest vehicle to get picked up at the airport in.
Yeah.
I ended up having to drive it to San Diego from San Francisco by way of Disneyland, and it was just. And Lincoln's like, "Hey, we'd love you to drive the Navigator." I'm like, "All right." I drove. I'm like, "Oh, this is a great for what it is. It's great." But it was just me and my wife. So at one point, she just sat way in the back in the third row.
God.
She's like, "Please drive me around.
Please just carry me around."
Yeah.
Good sir.
But no, I mean, the current Navigator is great at what it does. I'm sure this one, as long as they don't mess it up, it should be great at what it does. But the drivers are going to be irritated.
Yeah.
They won't tell you when they pick you up at the airport, but they're just going to be like, man, I just want to be cool.
I just wanted a cool car, and somehow I got this. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So, and I was at a backgrounder for this on Monday, and when I opened the door and looked inside and saw that screen, and then I looked at the vents and realized there was no little tabs on the vents to grab and move them. I said, oh, you didn't do this again, did you guys? Didn't you listen when we told you on the Nautilus not to do this?
Is there a single person out there who has ever said they thought those were a good idea? Have you ever had any feedback from anyone that's like, those are awesome?
You mean somebody who's not an engineer or designer for a company that does
who is like
No.
a journalist or a regular consumer who said, this is brilliant. I love that they did this.
I have not heard or met that person. If there's anyone in the audience that actually thinks that touchscreen controls for vents is a good idea, please let us know.
Yeah, I'm curious if anybody likes them and why.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick on you. I'm just going to say, John C. from Minneapolis is insane because he thinks. I mean, I won't say that, but
I might say
some people like Beats. I
love Beats. Beats are great.
No, I think Beats are like cilantro. Like for certain people, it tastes like just dirt.
I hate beets. My mom used to make beets all the time when I was a kid. It was like the vegetable I'd have to eat. She may have made them a handful of times in my child mind. She made them every single night and always made me eat them, and I hated them. I won't eat them now. I'm like, no, I'm a grown up.
Dirt to me.
They're gross. They're gross.
So those vents are the dirt, or if you like people like some people like cilantro, it tastes like soapy water to them. Like I love cilantro, but for some people, like it just tastes like soap water. I'm like, ew, that's disgusting. They're like, yeah, that's why I don't want to eat these.
I love cilantro too, and I love beets. So
you can have a beet and cilantro salad.
You can have my beets next time where it's something. I'll just like put the beets on your plate.
Yeah, no, it just tastes like dirt to me.
How do you feel about Brussels sprouts?
I love Brussels sprouts.
I love Brussels sprouts. But they changed Brussels sprouts so they're better. So now I love Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, they genetically engineered them to change the flavor of them.
Is that why they don't taste like garbage like they did when I was a kid? Or is it just that I'm not?
It's that, and also probably the way that they're prepared. They're not just they're typically not just steamed anymore. Now most of the time when you get Brussels sprouts, they're roasted, that's the best. Either raw, chopped up raw in a salad is really good.
Yeah.
Or roasted, especially if you roast them in bacon fat.
Yeah. All vegetables are, as far as I'm concerned, all vegetables are better raw.
Yeah.
Or at least just like a quick blanch.
I don't like raw Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, I'll eat raw Brussels sprouts. I love raw.
Really? You just like take them out of the bag and
I chop them.
Chop it up and put it in a salad.
Yeah,
just try it.
But we also we're on a cooking show now. Today in the Will Barron's cooking segment, I get the Brussels sprouts. I cut them up and then I separate them, and then you put some olive oil and some salt and pepper and a little bit of garlic, and then you throw it in the air fryer for like 5 minutes or
That I
something.
would do.
Oh,
I
yeah,
do.
Move it around, and they
good.
make like little chips, and they're delicious. It's a party in your mouth.
Isn't that somebody else's thing?
Yeah, it's someone else. I don't remember who.
I don't remember who's there. Someone's tagline.
Everyone's invited.
Anyway, so finishing up with the Navigator, same powertrain as before, 10-speed automatic, 3.5 liter twin turbo V6, 440 horsepower. Nothing from the body down has changed. It's all exactly the same. It maybe retuned some springs and dampers a little bit, but that's it. It's all the same. And on the black label, you get 24-inch wheels. So
to be honest, that's fine.
Yay.
Yeah,
it was good at what it does. It did. It doesn't really. I mean, again, it's the car that picks you up at the airport. It's outstanding.
It's roomy. It's comfortable.
Yeah,
drives nice.
I wish the rest of the Lincoln lineup just like was, I don't know, just felt as focused as this. But no, you can't go wrong with the Navigator if you're picking someone up at the airport.
All right. Next one from Monterey, the Cadillac Opulent Velocity concept.
I mean, it's in the name.
So we were both on the call for this, Sam, and listened to them talking about this ahead of the reveal, and it's the thing is, like, it looks really cool, but it's like nothing here is happening anytime soon.
It is truly a concept, of the type we used to see all the time.
So the sad thing is none of this is happening anytime soon. The cool thing is that you look at it and their whole sort of vibe was like, this is their vision of the future of luxury in an EV that's, in performance. And when you have level 4 autonomy and you don't have to always be driving the car, and how the car should be more like an environment that lets you experience things like art and light and sound, as opposed to just being something that takes you from point A to point B. It's incredibly beautiful. And the idea of it is just lovely. In my head, though, it was a little bit like, how Star Trek and all the planets and the Federation of Planets sounds really kind of cool, and everyone gets along and Earth is all happy. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It's a little bit how I feel about
because humans
too woke.
And it's kind of like, I look at this, I'm like, this seems really cool, but I don't know if this is ever going to happen. Maybe it will. Maybe in, I don't know, 20 years, Cadillac's going to be like, Nicole, we told you. They're
going to come to your house, shake you.
Yeah, wake up.
I told you.
So it's a very long, sleek electric 2+2 coupe. I like the front end.
Doors, and the lights are stunning. All the vertical design lights on the front. Oh my God. It's pretty.
The interior is quite minimal.
Mm-hmm.
It can actually display stuff on the screen on the windshield, and then there's also a screen in the middle of the steering yoke thing. The back seat's just like a bench,
Yeah, we see a lot of those. They're
utterly
just
uncomfortable.
No, we got to put a back seat in the back of this. That's the designers.
It's like a lot's happened in the future, but back seat passengers are still screwed. They get the worst seats in the house.
Yeah.
What's happened is that we don't like our friends in the future.
We don't like our friend. Yeah, we hate you. Sit in the back on that really uncomfortable looking bench seat. Well, the front seats in this are crazy though, because when you shut the door, that sort of is part of the seat almost, like it encloses you. So like the door sort of acts to wrap around you. It's not just one of those like we created a cockpit with door panels. It's almost like it's the side of the seat almost, kind of the way it comes in. And
like on the inboard side, the seat bottom curves up and into the console, and then the outboard side curves up into the door panel. So the door panel forms the outer bolster of the seat.
So when you look at it, when the doors open, it almost looks like part of the seat, like that's a very open seat. But then when you see with the door closed, oh wait, now we have full seat.
But the nice thing is makes it easy to just slide in and out instead of like when you got these really heavily bolstered seats. Sometimes getting in and out can be
awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did say that. Elements of this design language will appear in future Cadillacs, but we probably won't ever see anything that looks quite like this on the road.
I mean, it would be, and it has beautiful colors. Like it has this sort of,
and the lights in the steering wheel or in the wheel spokes.
Yes, that was like the lighting. I'm all about lighting these days because they're doing all the cool stuff, whether it's just new vehicles or concepts. Lights are where it's at, man. They do such neat stuff with lighting. And I just think that's kind of cool. I think it adds so much to a car, and it seems like a simple thing, but boy, does that like in the wheel spokes, that looked insane. And the lit up, the way the Cadillac badge was sort of backlit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's pretty.
Yeah.
You ever see those lights on the bicycle that when they're rolling, like they can say something because the lights are going at a certain, like you could do this with your Cadillac. You could be like, eat a Joe's or, Instagram page or, dancing duck or I don't know, whatever you want to like with animation.
People that put ads on their cars, it's going to make a few extra bucks if you advertise eat a Joe's. Yeah.
Eat Joe's.
Okay. And then the last Monterey car I want to talk about is the Acura Performance EV concept. Did you guys get a chance to look at this one?
I got a brief chance to glance at it. It looks
I looked at it.
It's happening. This one is going into production, right? Am I thinking?
Late 2025. This will be
gonna actually, unlike the Cadillac, we're going to get this thing.
Yeah, this will be the first first electric Acura, actually the first vehicle off of Honda's new EV platform that they're going to build in Ohio. So this is going to be built in Ohio at Honda's EV hub in Marysville. And so this will be the first one they build, and then some Honda badged models as well that'll be coming out of there, all using this platform. And the first thing I thought of when I saw the photos of this thing, it's like, why didn't they save the ZDX name for this thing? Because this is it's a fastback crossover coupe that is very reminiscent of the original ZDX from like 2008 or 9, whenever it was.
Yeah.
Do you think they just grabbed the ZDX name as almost a throwaway because they knew it wasn't going to last very long? They're like, we've already had it. It didn't do very well. Let's just throw it on this other car.
And maybe this will be the ZDX coupe. Who knows?
Maybe they may. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think they're going to like sort of, you have to homologate it for everything. So it's not going to be as like wacky. But no, this would be cool.
Close. I feel like we could see enough of this that you look at it and go, oh yeah, I see that. You know?
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be looking at this like night now or something.
That's where you would be if you not built.
If I wasn't here chatting with you two, I'd be staring at this.
I'd be so very sad if you weren't. So that just won't work.
People don't realize it's a long drive from San Francisco to Monterey. Northern California is huge. California is just huge in general. So you're like, oh, Monterey is like an hour, 90 minutes. Nope.
It's what, about 3 hours, 3.5 hours?
A couple hours later, you're like, okay, I'm here. Yeah. I've done that drive for those early morning BMW unveilings.
Oh, geez.
Like, I got to leave at 5 a.m. so I can get there at 8:30.
That's an early day.
Yeah,
okay. Let's see. What else? Oh, so do you remember back when GM went through its bankruptcy in 2009? And, when the government came in to supervise the reorganization, they wanted to basically get rid of all the brands except for Chevrolet and Cadillac. At the time, GM had 8 brands. They wanted to get rid of everything except Chevy and Cadillac. And they looked at, they started looking at the numbers and they realized GMC trucks and SUVs are just like Chevy trucks and SUVs, but for some reason, customers are willing to pay $10,000 more for them. Mm-hmm. So perhaps we should keep GMC around and,
it's the Acura of.
Well, except Acura's at least look more different from Honda's than GMC's usually do.
That's true. You'll see a GMC.
Although GMC has diverged more from Chevy in recent years, but
yeah. Sometimes you'd be like, "Is that silver?" Oh no.
And then the other thing that they wanted to get rid of Buick because nobody was buying Buicks in America, but they said, but wait, we sell 1.2 million Buicks a year in China. The Chinese love Buicks. Well, apparently not anymore.
Oh.
They've changed their mind.
I love telling people that Buicks were huge in China. That was like one of my favorite little factoids.
Yeah.
The Buick's huge in China. They're like, what are you talking about? Please go away.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, 2009, 2010, they were selling, 1.2, 1.3 million Buicks a year in China. In the first half of this year, 81,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
how many cars are in their lineup?
In the Buick lineup,
Yeah,
here or over there?
over there.
I think there's about 6.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's bad.
Yeah.
That's real bad.
It's
Because anyone
it's
and the Chinese market's huge, so you when you kind of like think about it, you're like, oh wait, oh, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's about 27, 28 million vehicle market, and they sold like 81,000 Buicks in the first half of the year. Basically, what has happened over the last 3, 4, 5 years in China? It used to be that Chinese car buyers were really into buying foreign brands. They had much more prestige, and so they were much more interested in buying Buicks and BMWs and Audis and even Volkswagens. And so foreign brands, even though they were in joint ventures with Chinese companies, so the companies were jointly owned by the Chinese, the operating companies in China. It was the foreign brands that was what consumers wanted to buy, what Chinese consumers wanted to buy. That has shifted in the last several years, and now Chinese domestic brands account for almost 65% of the Chinese market.
Wow.
that whole market
continuing to shift.
Yeah, that whole market. Because remember that, like the China or the cherry cars and the other,
Mm-hmm.
like you go and you look at it, and you're like, even in the show on the showroom floor, they're like, you could like move them with your hand.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm gonna pull a panel off on this car. But that they have so the entire Chinese like domestic car market has it's just gotten so much better in the last few years. And so you're in China, like, well, now I'm going to buy a Chinese car because they're better. Before, like a Buick, that was a dope car compared to like what you could get from those companies now.
Yeah. Now that there's so many interesting things from Chinese brands like Li Auto and Xiaopeng and Neo, and BYD, and SAIC and all the rest that Chinese consumers say, yeah, why do we need the foreign brands? Ours are just as good, if not better. And
That's for America. I think American car companies are in trouble with competing with the Chinese.
Yeah.
I mean, here we're okay for a little while because we got what we got, but yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah. So so GM is their primary partner in China is SAIC, Shanghai Automotive Incorporated, and they are talking to SAIC about restructuring, doing a total structural overhaul of their operations there. Because the only thing really that's selling, Cadillacs are doing okay, but they're down too. But some of the cheaper brands like Wuling that they build, are those are doing gangbusters, but everything else is getting hammered. So GM's looking at a bunch of layoffs in China, and fundamentally changing their overall product strategy there, doing more stuff domestically, having domestic engineering and design, and really cutting back overall.
I mean, it's like a necessary thing, that it's the market is changing very quickly, and especially over there. And I think it's unfortunate that it's not changing in a way that benefits some legacy automakers from America. But it's one of those things you gotta change it up, or they just have to change. They
Evolve or die.
Evolve or die. That is traditionally the saying. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Speaking of China, Zeekr, which is part of the Geely Group, along with Volvo and Polestar and Lotus and Lincoln Co. and a whole bunch of other brands, they have just launched production of the Zeekr 007, which is the first vehicle to feature a new battery that they call the Golden Battery, that they announced last year, that makes everything else seem slow when it comes to charging.
Everything else is second class.
So this is it's an LFP battery, a lithium iron phosphate battery, and it's developed in house at Geely and Zeekr. So it's not from CATL or BYD or Goshen, the other main manufacturers of LFP EV batteries. It's got some revised chemistry in there, and the construction of the cells and the pack, and they claim what's known as 5.5 C ultra fast charging. So the C rate for batteries is the ratio between the battery capacity and how long it takes to charge or discharge. So, most EV batteries today have a C rate of about two-ish or so, 2.5. This thing is 5.5 C. So they claim it'll charge from 10 to 80% in 10.5 minutes. Using the Zeekr's proprietary stations, because to charge that fast, it's one, you got to have the battery that can take that charge, but you also have to have really high power chargers, and Zeekr's got they've got a charging network with really high power chargers.
800 volt charging.
Yeah.
So they have an 800 volt charging station with it, and then there's also it's crazy fast.
Yeah.
10.5 minutes.
Yeah. And, one of the challenges traditionally with LFP batteries is LFP chemistry has usually about 35% lower energy density than nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries, which is why most EVs here use NMC batteries. But because LFP batteries are so much more stable, they're able to use them in to do a structural pack, so they can package the cells in a lot tighter and just put them straight into a box instead of putting them in modules. And with typical NMC batteries, the volume, the ratio, the amount of the total volume of the battery pack that's actually active cell material that's storing energy is only about typically 30 to 35%. With Zeekr is claiming that this one is 83.7%.
Oh my
of
God.
the volume is actually active material that's storing energy.
That's 75 kilowatt hours. So it's a lighter pack.
Yeah.
At 75 but it's lighter than what you would get on a 75 kilowatt traditional, and it charges super quick.
Yeah. And
it's 800 volts, so it's more efficient already at the baseline.
Yeah. They claim a range of 423 miles on the Chinese test cycle, which is wildly optimistic. So it's probably closer to somewhere around 300 miles, but that's still really good for 75 kilowatt hour LFP pack that can charge, do most of a charge in 10.5 minutes.
Yeah, that's I wonder if they'll license it or if they'll just keep it for themselves.
My guess is that because the technology is owned by Zeekr / Geely, that we will. I've sent a note to Volvo and Polestar to ask, and I'll ask them next week when I'm driving the EX90. But I would be surprised if we don't see this being applied in Polestar and Volvo vehicles too in the coming years.
Yeah, I would think it would roll out to those as well. That would make sense.
Yeah. Well, and the Zeekr 001 is on the same platform as the Polestar 4, which is coming here. So at least that, I would expect at least that one, we'll get this battery, and probably see it in other models as well.
Did we find out what the charge rate is for this vehicle? Is it?
It doesn't say. It only says the 5.5 C.
Okay.
They don't give a kilowatt rating for it.
Yeah, because ChargePoint they have a 400 kilowatt charger that's out, and you can just use versus the 350s. Yeah. The OmniPort.
Yeah.
That's on a 400 kilowatt.
Well, I know. I mean, most of their DC chargers are modular, so they can be upgraded.
Yeah,
so even the 350s, you can bump them up to 400 or even more. I think in some cases,
if you want to party.
Yeah.
You want to party?
Why do you want the music? Why do you want the sound on the music and the radio at the same time? Because I like to party.
Can I party? I'm gonna party.
I get a party.
Let's see.
Time.
All right. Let's answer a couple of questions, listener questions. I haven't put them in the rundown yet.
Oh, okay.
But let's
I was
answer
like,
a
oh
couple of
no,
questions.
am I looking at the wrong
and wrap
thing?
it up.
Like, it's not there. What's he talking about?
Nope. So the first one is from Dale, who sent us an email. Said, "Hi guys, sitting in my boat on beautiful Lake Wisconsin, and just
Ooh.
finished listening to your recent podcast. Being in a boat, I should be able to get a song drummed up for you, but alas, I am dry. I recently took the plunge on an EV because of the great lease rates. I've been waiting for the NACS to CCS adapter, but not sure when Nissan will ship. I see options online, but while they say they are not for the Aria, my salesperson says I can use them. And my question to you is: are the Tesla chargers going to accept them? Nissan has the proverbial agreement with them, but they don't have the authorized adapter. I'm sure the owners of various makes are having the same dilemma I am, and that would be pretty much everybody except Ford and Rivian so far. Can you make the waters less muddy for us? So yeah, Nissan obviously has not shipped a NACS to CCS adapter yet. There are some third-party ones out there. Not all of them are equally safe, which is why the charge network operators don't necessarily want you using them. But Tom Malogny, who does the State of Charge YouTube channel, he tests a lot of these things. And when he tests, he takes them and puts them on superchargers and actually measures the temperature of the adapter, because the big risk is that these things can overheat and melt, and then all kinds of bad things can happen. But he's tested a bunch of these, and there are two that he recommends. One is from a company called A to Z, and I'll find a link and put it in the show notes. And the other one is an adapter from Lectron, but not the. When they first shipped them, they had a manufacturing issue. There was a latch on there that was installed backwards, and so the latch is supposed to prevent you from pulling the charge connector out of the port while it's charging, so you don't get a big 800 volt arc. Not a good thing. But they have since fixed that. They've redesigned it a little bit, changed the manufacturing process, and those are good as well. So I'll put links to those in there in the show notes. Robbie, you got any additional thoughts on this one?
Has Nissan, is the software there?
I don't
know. That's the thing, is I don't know if the software is like, because you might plug it in and it might be like, the thing we have with the Hyundais and the Kias, when you plug them into like a Magic Dock, where you're like, yeah, this is awesome. You're like, oh, I'm going to get 85 kilowatts.
Well, but the Aria is only a 400 volt system, so it's only because
that might,
the
yeah,
EGMP is 800 volts, and they have a
volts
wonky setup.
With the motor,
So
the rear motors, yeah. So they just, it's cool. It's actually pretty cool the way they're using the rear motor to do it, but you have to it's
my guess would be the Aria will be fine. Using it should be able to charge at full speed. So you got a couple options. If you have a supercharger station nearby you with Magic Docks, and they seem to be putting in more and more of them, you can use that. Or one of these adapters should work. It should work fine.
Someone should get like the adapter and just call in every car.
Yeah, Tom has tested it on a bunch of different vehicles, and they seem to work fine.
Tom's great. You should go check out Tom's site.
Yeah. And then the other one was in Discord from Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns.
So Mr. Burns asks, he's looking for a sub $15,000 SUV for a sibling that destroys cars. So obviously not a new vehicle. One of my siblings kills cars, like Jeffrey Dahmer style. Hopefully he's not eating them. They murder the crap out of them and then wonder why they're having to replace one every 5 to 6 years. Well, I mean, if the sibling is able to make it last 5 or 6 years, it doesn't seem that bad. But anyway,
I feel like at the end of that 5 or 6 years, that car is being smashed, though. That's what I feel like this question's about. Like it has no value. Like the scrap people are like, oh my god, no. Like they're terrified of it.
So he said they did horrible things to my '84 Buick Century when it was lent a while in high school. They left
You know
a
what?
car.
You're better off.
They left a car abandoned somewhere in the Appalachian
Oh
Mountains.
my god!
By the
Wait,
side
for
of the
6
road
months?
for 6 months. This most recent car, they rear-ended someone who slammed on their brakes on the interstate. They didn't get cited because the driver of the other car drove off. But now my sibling is trying to see what they will have after the car is totaled out by insurance and the gap is paid off, if at all. Their driving profile, not a car person, love their CRV, picky about other SUVs, has two middle school age to high school age kids.
Middle-aged high school kids. Wow.
I'm assuming it's middle school to high school age kids.
That might be with it, yeah.
And they're crap. Occasionally transports things like paddle boards. Found a $14,000 Alfa Romeo Stelvio and thought it was a good replacement. No. I mean, the Stelvio, I like the Stelvio, love it a lot.
It's a wonderful car.
For someone that is going to abuse a car,
no,
probably not a great choice.
No.
Parts are going to be expensive. Yeah, stay away from the Stelvio. We other siblings and dad have been suggesting for $15,000 or less the Jeep Cherokee, Hyundai Kona or Venue, matching Kia the Sportage or the Seltos for Kia, Honda Fit, Kia Soul, which they hate and won't consider, Toyota CHR, Jeep Renegade, or Subaru Crosstrek. Currently, they're looking at low miles, just under 60,000. 2017 Jeep Cherokee Sport for 14,000 or so. CarMax doesn't offer a similar Jeep Cherokee at all for that price and mileage. Old people own this one. I think the Village is in Central Florida. Yeah, definitely old people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thoughts? Anything you'd immediately recommend against on that list? Anything you immediately would warn against for the Jeep Cherokee? Thanks.
Before we got to like the fact that he loves the CRV, was get a used CRV. That was like I'm like, you need something that's bulletproof.
Yeah,
just get the CRV.
The CRV, I would agree.
Yeah, just I mean, there's a reason why he probably loves or she or this human. Why this human loves the CRV. It's a good car. You can treat it like crap and it just keeps going. They're really easy to work on. All those like, especially the older probably the one he's going to get is probably they're actually pretty easy to work on. So if this person's like my cousin who had, I don't even remember what I had to do to fix a CRV, but it was like an $80 part and like 45 minutes of my time, but it was $800 if he took it to a shop. Like if they know someone who can just do something, it's super easy to work on.
They're cheap, yeah.
They're cheap. There's a lot of room in them. Maybe just keep going on the CRV route.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few here, given the use case that you probably want to avoid, like the Kona, the Venue, and the CHR, because, with two middle school to high school age kids, backseat's probably going to be too tight.
Yeah, we have a Kona.
And same with Renegade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would probably knock those off the list. But I mean, the CRV, let's see. I'm just looking at Auto Trader. I did a search for CRVs under 60,000 miles, under $15,000. There are a bunch of them out here, and they're older typically. Mostly like 2011, 2012, 2013. Here's a 2019, which is just the previous generation with 31,000 miles on it.
Oh my gosh.
And $14,000.
That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah. So they're out there. So CRV is probably the best choice. Here's another 2018 CRV, 47,000 miles, 14,900. I would go with the CRV. Or what?
RAV4.
Yeah, I was going to say the RAV4.
Yes, RAV4. But if you like the CRV, stick with the CRV.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if you'd be able to find a RAV4 for that.
That's the thing, is RAV4s are a bit more, I guess more popular. people seem to gravitate more towards the RAV4s versus the CRV. CRV
Yeah.
is like quietly awesome, while the RAV4 is very vocally awesome.
It's more popular. It's the popular kids, so everybody
Yeah.
knows about it. The CRV
Cool
is
kids.
for popular kids, so it's easier to find.
Yeah.
Let's see. RAV4. What comes up here, if anything?
You never know. He might find one. But
here we go. 2014 RAV4, 57,000 miles, 14,998.
Boom.
Boom. There's a few out there. There's a 2012, 53,000 miles, 15 grand. So yeah, either RAV4 or CRV. Those are your best choices.
I would not get a Jeep Cherokee.
I would not.
Even my neighbor who has had a couple Jeep Cherokees, he's like, they're awesome up to 60,000 miles. That's it. He's like, I love the cars until 60,000. He's a big car. He
what
restores
goes wrong
cars.
with that transmission? The 9-speed.
Yeah. He bought my cousin's CRV.
Oh, really?
After I fixed the front, it turns out the rear differential was shot. Oh, it just had a horrible run.
Oh.
It had a bunch of other little issues, and so I sold it to my neighbor who he replaced the rear differential, did a bunch of stuff, and then he sold it to somebody. And I was like, I don't got time to deal with this.
So you can find some good, solid, reliable crossovers for under 60,000 miles and $15,000. They're out there.
Mm-hmm.
Just got to look for them. So, all right. So thank you, Mr. Burns, for sending that in. And thanks to everybody else for continuing to listen and supporting us. And don't forget, there's merch available. Go to shop.wheelbearings.media. You can get T-shirts and stuff. And just keep on listening and let your friends know to listen in as well.
Absolutely.
Tell your mom. Oh, I don't know.
See you next time.
All right. See ya. Bye.